All right. Well, the moment that we've been waiting for this evening is the man of the hour, Joe Theismann. So we'd like to show you a video that we've put together.
I remember going out to the university and then flying back and getting off the plane in Newark, New Jersey. My dad picked me up. He says, "What do you think?" I said, "I have to go to Notre Dame." He says, "Why?" I said, "Dad, I can only tell you this, it feels right."
Coach Parsekian is forced to hand the Irish offense over to sophomore quarterback Joe Theismann. The poised quarterback gives the impression he wants to become a veteran in one game.
He's a willowy boy, 6 feet, 170 pounds, but remarkably quick feet and excellent balance.
The South River Roadrunner, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
He had put together a public relations campaign, Theismann for Heisman buttons and Theismann for Heisman bumper stickers.
Dan Henning, the offensive coordinator, told us yesterday that Theismann is the most prepared and most motivated quarterback that he has ever been associated with.
This is it.
Mike, you'd absolutely think for Ray Lucas, this has got to be a dream come true. He grew up a bike ride from Giant Stadium. He was a Jet for a while. The thing is, the guy...
Hi, I'm Joe Theismann. You may know me best as a Pro Bowl quarterback, NFL world champion, sportscaster, entrepreneur, and for one play on Monday Night Football. My experiences have given me significant insight on how to handle unforeseen change. And that's the thing that every one of you here has to understand, the significance of who you are and what you do.
And as we've been talking all morning, life is about people and relationships. And I tell you this, you cannot, will not, nor ever hope to be a true success in life if you think you do it by yourself.
The injury to me, I became a much more introspective individual. I looked at myself and I wanted to be a better person. I learned a great lesson that night, that no matter how great you are at what you do, it can be over in an instant. And that's why every day you have to live your life to the fullest. Every day you have to go after with everything you have, because there's no guarantees for tomorrow.
Now, before we bring Joe up here to speak, I'm going to rattle off just a few of these accomplishments in these stats that for you to just really appreciate sort of where he's been and what he's done and accomplished over the years. First team All-American at Notre Dame, runner-up to the Heisman Trophy, College Football Hall of Famer, multiple record holder at Notre Dame, in the NFL, two-time Pro Bowler, NFL Most Valuable Player, NFL Offensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl champion, of course, a successful broadcaster, speaker, entrepreneur, but NFL Man of the Year is listed in here as well. And from my experience of getting to know Joe just in my business is that some people just have it, right? They've got that it factor. Joe, he's got it. Whatever it is, he's got lots of it. He's got movie star looks. He became a movie star. But the thing that stands out to me about Joe is that he talks to everyone. If there is a fan, if there's someone that wants him, he takes time. He gives you that time. He makes you feel seen. He hears you. He listens to you, and he's there. And he signs the autographs. He takes the pictures. If Notre Dame has something going on and they want him to come back for ND Day, we can rely on Joe that he's going to be there and he's going to give that time and effort to help promote the cause. And I think that's a really special thing. One of the things that we've had on our show when he's been on, we've been very fortunate to have Joe on the show a few times over the years. And when he's at his best is when there are children that are out there or someone with special needs, and he just connects with them. He makes eye contact with them and he makes them feel special and, like I said, feel seen. And I think that is the it factor, regardless of your talent, regardless of your looks, regardless of all of the things that you might have going for you. It's being a person that can be connected with and that can see you and hear you and be there for you while also being the brightest shine in the room. And I think that's really neat. And he's a special person, and we're lucky to have him be a part of the Notre Dame family. And I'd love to bring him up at this time to present him with the Living Legend Award.
Wow, what a night. Would everybody, well, you already did. I was going to say, everybody please stand up because I know the mind can only comprehend what the bottom end can endure. But I want to thank you so much to the New Rockney Memorial Society. Thank you so much to Ron and to Pat and to my friends that have been here, parts of the university. Tommy, my wide receiver, I guess you could say. You're mine, I'm yours. It's all the way. Looking back at my career here at the University of Notre Dame and some of the experiences that I've had, and first, Jim, I want to thank you for making this possible for me. Mike, I want to thank you for an incredible video and a great memory for me. Thank you so much for my family, my wife, Robin, my granddaughter, Faith, my son, Patrick, Sharon, Shirley, and George, my whole family here, and of course, Peter and Denise. I got Peter, before I know you've been sitting for a while, but my career at the University of Notre Dame, it seems like my whole life is a story. It really goes back to when I first thought about the University of Notre Dame. Now, Ronnie was talking about the fact that, the golden helmets and everything that Notre Dame believes in and everything that Notre Dame is, and you'd watch it on TV. I never did. I played football on Saturday afternoon. That was the most important thing for me to do. And I never really had a chance to sort of sit back and absorb what Notre Dame was at that time when I was a 17-year-old kid in high school. And I did remember getting recruited, but I cut it down to 5 different schools. I was a All-American in high school, but I said to myself, I want to limit the amount of schools I'm going to go visit. So it was Penn State, Notre Dame, Wake Forest, UNC, and North Carolina State. And my high school coach, a guy by the name of Ron Wojcicki, was the backup quarterback to a guy by the name of Roman Gabriel. Had to have a heck of a career with the Rams. I said, hey, that's a good reason to go to college. We all make decisions for one reason or another. I was going to go to college because my high school coach had backed up Roman Gabriel. So all the recruiting stopped, and then Joe Yanto, who was our defensive line coach, Joe calls me up and he said, we'd like you to make a trip out to the University of Notre Dame. I said, already signed. I signed at North Carolina State. He said, no, Joe, we are an independent school. And that time, if you signed in a conference, you would be ineligible for a year. But he said, we're independent. If you come out here and decide to come, no problem whatsoever. I flew out to Notre Dame, and literally I came out, and Rocky Blyer and Dan Harshman were my chaperones. And we went over to the Rock, and Pat was talking about 19 different quarterbacks. There were 13 when I got here. What we did here at the university was a very unique thing. We recruited athletes, and so many of them became something else. Defensive backs, running backs, wide receivers, linebackers, some of them tight ends. Mike Creaney, gave me a statistic here. He has the longest touchdown pass I've ever thrown, 78 yards. It's also the only one he ever caught, which really makes it even more memorable for both of us. They said, well, he had the longest pass. Tommy Gatewood had 78 catches, so he had 77 more than Creaney did, but that's how it worked out. So I wind up coming out to the University of Notre Dame. They put us through all this, and you're one of 13 or whatever the number was, and they just recruited the athletes, and there's guys 6'3" and 120 pounds or 220 pounds and guys that could run like the wind and all this. And here I am, literally 152 pounds. That's where Harry and I have so much in common. We were too tiny. Matter of fact, that picture that showed the both of us at the same time, we looked about the same height and we were about the same weight, which was interesting about it all. So I came here and met with everybody and saw everybody, and I went back home. And I remember an article in a Newark newspaper that said, Theismann will get killed at Notre Dame. And call me spiteful if you'd like, but I'm also very motivated. If you want me to do something, just tell me I can't do it. God bless my wife, because she's experienced that all the time. But I'm in a situation now where I get off the plane, Newark, New Jersey. My dad picks me up. He says, what do you think? I said, Dad, and you saw it in the video, Dad, I have to go to Notre Dame. He says, why? I said, Dad, it just feels right. And since the day I set foot on this campus, it has felt so right. And I believe this in all of us as people. So often in our life, we sit and we analyze situations. And we want to run numbers. And we want to do the analytics that get into everything. But yet, if we only just trusted our gut, I believe we would have a much higher percentage of things going the way we want them to in our lives than trying to figure out all the reasons why it couldn't, or whatever. And that's really how I wound up here at the University of Notre Dame. We only played one game. As freshmen, we weren't allowed to. All we were was people that the varsity could beat up on. That's all. Ari used to stand up in that tower, and he used to look at us and watch the Mike McCoy and all those guys just beat the living daylights out of us on a continuing basis. And then I had a chance. But what I did is because there were 13 other quarterbacks and I was a skinny little scrawny kid, I've always sought competitive edges in my life. Some way, some shape. How can you gain a competitive edge in anything you do? I decided to come to the university 1 week early. And I sat and met with the coaches. And we sat down. They showed me where to stand in the huddle. They taught me the cadence. They gave me some plays. And just as we all in our lives, when you're in a meeting, you want it to go well. So I was basically the only guy that really understood the offense as a freshman. And so I wound up getting the chance and opportunity to be the starting quarterback here at the University of Notre Dame simply because I showed up a week early. Now, was I good enough to keep the job? That was up to me. But the opportunity had been presented. And our coach was a guy by the name of Wally Moore. Wally Moore was our freshman coach. And I had punted a little bit in high school. And so I'm in practice punting one day, and Era was, just had his way of doing things. Every coach I've played for, they weren't democratic in their decisions. It's, you're going to do it this way, and you're going to figure out how to do it this way, or I'm going to find somebody who's going to do it this way, and it ain't going to be you. So with Wally, I'm punting one day. So Wally goes up to Aaron, he says, Coach, this Theismann kid, he can really punt. So we have a scrimmage, and Aaron says, all right, well, Wally, we'll give him a try. I go out 21 yards, 23 yards. Aaron says, no more, Wally, no more. You're done. So he goes, he says, Wally, do me a favor. If you ever have an inkling about somebody being really good, just keep it to yourself. Be a lot less embarrassing for all of us. But that was my freshman year here at the university. And of course, being on campus, because we are who we are at Notre Dame, because we are integrated in so many different aspects of life and in so many ways, and we don't have fraternities, and it's just every student here is a student athlete. We have some people that don't put on a uniform at this university, young men and young women that are fantastic athletes. And they've come here to get the education because of what Notre Dame means. And then I wind up, really going back a little bit. When Coach Yano came to visit me, as fate would have it, when Coach Yano came to South River, and I was laying in my grandmother's bed, I was sick. And he handed me to sign my grant and aid here at the University of Notre Dame, a Dallas Cowboy pen. Little did I know how fate would take me in different directions against that great football franchise. But being a part of the university has meant so much to me. And an era, interestingly enough, when Terry got hurt, there was Bob Belden, Coley O'Brien, and myself, the three of us. And then Pat came a little bit after that. But he had a special way of scaring the living daylights out of you, but also making you feel like you could run through a wall. So Terry gets hurt with about 3 games to go. And here I am, a sophomore, and all these seniors, 1966, we just won a national championship. It's 1968. Era looks at me, he says, "You're in." Didn't ask a question. Just, I went and we managed to, only played half of each game. We managed to blow people out. Then we went out to play USC on the coast. O.J. Simpson was there, and it was the vaunted, USC Trojan football team. And Pat's right. We both always got sick and tired of watching that darn horse run back and forth and up and down and back and forth. I'm glad it got muddy. That's all I can tell you on that particular year. But as I've traveled through the adventure here at the university and being able to grow, and it wasn't until Era's 90th birthday, we all came back for his birthday. And I knelt down in front of him. I got on my knee. He was sitting in a chair. And for me, it was like having a papal visit. I knelt down and I looked at him and I said, "Coach, I've never asked you this question. All these years, I've never asked one simple question. Why me?" Coley had quarterbacked the team into a national championship. Bobby was a senior. And here I was, this sophomore kid with literally no experience. And he looked at me and he said, "Joe, I just felt like it was your time." And all of us, I think, have experienced that with Coach Parsegian and what he was able to do for us. And he always made you feel special. And the most scary parts of my life coming to the university were being called into his office. "Coach," those words you don't want to hear as a football player. "Coach wants to see you." Whether it was Newt Rockney and Harry going or anybody else, you just don't want to hear those. And all he wanted to know is how the family's doing. How's your classes going? Are you doing okay? We were all male at that time here at the University of Notre Dame, and we had curfews, some of which we abided by and some of which we tried to challenge just a little bit in time. But it was a fraternity. We weren't a particular fraternity. We were an entire fraternity. And having a chance to put that Notre Dame uniform on, Notre Dame meant a lot to me when I had a chance to put the uniform on here. And being honored, with the name Newt Rockney attached to an honor that you receive, it's incredible. It's overwhelming. And to be honored with the videos that have been put together to show that, I was here. I actually played baseball here at the University of Notre Dame. Nobody believes me because you cannot find one picture of Joe Theismann in a Notre Dame baseball uniform. There's a box score, played 7 games down in Miami, which, by the way, was not a place you don't want to go in Miami. Ronnie pointed that out. Ronnie's not a place you want to go through Miami. But I played baseball here at the university for Jake Klein. Jake was our math teacher. Those of you that were here with school with me, Jake had one policy for us. If you showed up, you got an A. If you didn't show up, you got a B. And it was, classes are a little different today. I understand that. There's a little bit more of a qualification that you have to go through as part of the university. But it was, and I guess there's so many, when I look at the university, to be able to sort of take my mindset and create this competitive edge for myself in my life going forward, it started here at Notre Dame. To be able to make a decision and trust my gut, it started here at Notre Dame. And I stand before you today as Joe Theismann because of the vision of one particular man, Roger Baldessari. After our junior year, I had a really good year, and I believe Roger was standing at practice once, and there was a writer from Chicago who basically walked up to him and whispered in his ear, and he said, "Hey, Raj, is that Theismann like in Heisman?" And he never said a word. And then all of a sudden, beginning of my senior year, Roger calls me in the office. He says, "Joe, how do you pronounce your last name?" I said, "It's Theismann." He said, "No, it's not." your last name is pronounced Theismann. I said, no, it's not. My last name is Theismann. He said, no, Joe, your last name is pronounced Theismann. I said, give me the phone. I picked up the phone. I called my dad back home in New Jersey. I get my dad on the phone. I said, Pop, got a question for you. He said, what's that, Joey? I said, Dad, how do you pronounce our last name? Dead silence on the phone. About 30 seconds goes by. My dad comes on. He says, son, are you okay? You're a senior at the University of Notre Dame, and you don't know how to pronounce your last name. What are your practices like? Are you getting hit in the head very often? I said, no, Dad, that's it. Please just tell me. How do you pronounce our last name? I'll explain it later. He said, it was Theismann. Hung the phone up. I turned to Roger. I said, Raj, my last name is Theismann. Just got off the phone with my dad. He says, Joe, I want to tell you something. There's a trophy out there called the Theismann Trophy. It goes to the best college football player in the country. We think you have a chance to win that trophy, but we're not just going to count on the University of Notre Dame. We're not even going to count on your athletic ability, but we think by just simply changing the pronunciation of your last name from Theismann to Theismann to rhyme with Heisman, we can get you that trophy. And that's how I wound up becoming Joe Theismann. 53 years ago, basically a brand was created. And God rest, I've spent so many days with Roger when he was with us, and I know he's up there laughing right now, thinking that, that was one of those things that really worked out for us pretty darn good. And of course, I would be remiss as not part of my experience here at the University of Notre Dame, my dearest friend in the world, Peter Chiavarelli. Peter and I were classmates, and we're very thrilled to that. But Peter is a very unique individual. Not only does he manage Chicago and live in Chicago, but he also has an entrepreneurial spirit. And we used to practice right about where the practices are now, and there was a gate. And we would come out of the locker room, and we would go on and into the gate. And Peter, being the entrepreneur that he was, he would park his GTO right where we entered practice. And his trunk would be open. And we could select from sweaters or watches or whatever Peter was selling at that particular practice. He was always an entrepreneur. And I've always laughed about that. And I love him to death. He's like family to me, and he's been a friend forever. But I thought about, that's the entrepreneurial spirit that we create here at the University of Notre Dame. We take advantage of every opportunity to be able to do what we can do and have a chance to do it. I was talking about, I'd like to just, I don't want to go on forever, I know, but it's such an overwhelming honor. Like, when you come to here and you're a 152-pound kid and one of 13 people, and, you look around and you think, wow, are you ever going to have a chance? See, I never, when I played the position, and whether I played it at a professional level or at the collegiate level, I never turned around to see who was behind me. I never focused on what might be coming behind me. And this is the way I live my life. I call myself a windshield guy. I like to see what's going on out here. I'm not a rear view mirror guy, because I can't change that, but I can affect what's out in front of me and affect the lives of people that I have a chance to be able to talk to. But I do want to sort of talk about one other ability that I had. And it started really Wally, like I said, almost cost Wally his job. But I will tell you about a game against the Chicago Bears. It was the third game of the season, 1985. We played the Bears at Soldiers Field. And sometimes in life, we have to step outside the silos and boxes we create for ourselves and take a chance. Take a chance. Just, if you believe it, go do it. So we're playing the Bears in Soldiers Field, third game of the season. We kicked the ball away from Willie Gault 3 times, fastest man in football. Now we're going to kick the ball to Willie. I'm standing on the sideline, ball goes through the air, Willie catches it and starts to run. I'm going, whoa, look at Willie run. Oh, look at Willie really run. Now Willie's in our end zone, touchdown. Scores 10-7, but on that play, the guy that kicks off for us is also our punter. He tears a thigh muscle. We don't have a punter. Coach Gibbs is walking around going, what am I going to do? I thought, my favorite word, opportunity. What a great opportunity. How hard is it? You drop the ball, you raise your foot, boom, piece of cake. So I walked up to Coach Gibbs. I said, Coach, you looking for a punter? He said, yeah, I don't know what to do. I said, I can punt. He said, you can what? I said, I can punt. How hard can it be? You drop the ball, you raise your foot, boom. I hope they can run that far. He looks, he said, fine. Next time we punt, you punt. I go running on the field. We get the ball on the 13-yard line, run a running play, gain 2 yards, 2nd down and 8 from the 15.
I looked at the sidelines and coaches signaling in a pass. I'm going, great. Chances are we're not going to complete this because I got a personal relationship with the punter. Drop back, pick on a kid in the third row. Boom, into the stands. Darn shucks, incomplete. It's now 3rd and 8. He signals in another pass. I still have that same relationship with the punter. I drop back, can't throw this one in the stands, bounce this one in the ground. 4th and 8. Guess we have to punt. Offense runs off the field. Kicking team runs on. My teammates are going, hey, Joe, kick it right, kick it right. I'm going, man, just get it back here. No problem whatsoever. I'm standing on the goal line in Soldiers Field. Ball's on the 15-yard line. I'm going, Mom, look at me. I'm a punter in the National Football League. How great is this? All of a sudden, I call for the snap. Ball hits my hand. Have you ever had your world go into slow motion? The roar of the crowd becomes this muted sound. And I'm thinking, kick the ball right. Drop the ball right by foot. Pow! Ball goes flying through the air. Hung in the air. Hung at 16 yards. I'm back 15. That's right. I became a record holder in the National Football League with my punting exploits. 1 neck yard. You ever watch guys run down the field and cover kicks? My guys they got no clue where this thing went. I saw it go over the Bear bench. I start walking back. 6 Chicago Bears come up to me. Way to go, Joe Babes. Can't wait for you to kick it again. Go get him, pal. Needless to say, I retired with my 1-yard average. And something, too, about the University of Southern California game that we played. And they were a great football team, and I think we were as well. I mean, to be able to put as many wins together as we did, and Peter pointed this out to me. Our 1970 Notre Dame football team, you may find this hard to believe, but it's factual. We run more plays in a game than any team, any collegiate team in the history of football. We averaged 95 plays a game, and we huddled. That's the amazing thing about it. That's how efficient it was. I didn't play a lot of games. If you look at the scores, we played 2 games that particular year where they went to running clocks. So in other words, if a guy ran out of bounds, they just keep the clock running because the other guys wanted to go home as quickly as they could, which was fine with us. It just made it a little bit easier for us to be able to do that. But I come to realize as life runs in full cycle, like I said, I signed my grant and aid here at the university with a Dallas Cowboy pen. When we played Southern California out on the coast, the offensive line coach at the University of Southern California under John McKay was a guy by the name of Joe Gibbs. And I remember throwing that ball in the rain. I used to love the rain never bothered me. I could throw the ball around. And Joe would stand on the sidelines, and Jimmy Jones, I believe, was their quarterback. And he would come to the sidelines and he would say, I can't hold the ball. And Joe would say, why is he able to do it and you can't? And it was really funny. And then I worked with Joe's grandchildren and stuff, learning how to throw a wet football. I mean, it was one of those things. But it's funny how we run into different people through life. And here at the university, for me, it's been an incredible experience to be able to represent the University of Notre Dame. And one little last story I'd like to tell you. We played in the Hula Bowl, 1971. We go over to Hawaii. And we just beaten Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Now we're flying over. And this is what the university is all about. This is who the University of Notre Dame is. We get off the plane, and everybody's getting on buses. And over in a corner near the building where we were loading the buses, there's all this clamoring and cheering and yelling. It was the Notre Dame Club of Hawaii that came there to meet me, not to go to the hotel, but to take us to a luau. And that to me it says who the University of Notre Dame is. It's why we love this place. It's why we love this place so much. And it means so much to so many of us. Because it's not only experiences, it's not only education. And we're going through a trying time. And that's why the good Lord has allowed me to go there. Back in 1970, there were more starting Catholics on the University of Texas's 22 than there was on the University of Notre Dame. So us Methodists showed up. I can just tell you that. We're here at the university too. Never missed a mass in all my years here at school. And then I would never forget, we used to stay over across the lake at St. Joe. Now they're downtown at a hotel. 30 years after I left the university, I ran into a priest out in Arizona. He said, hope you enjoyed the cookies. Hope you enjoyed the cookies. He said, yes.
He was a brother at that time, and he used to leave me cookies in my room every Friday night before a game. In full cycle, life went 30 years, and I had a chance to thank him. But and my wife's the best cookie maker in the world, so cookies have been a part of my life. I'm honored. Jim, thank you so much. The Newt Rockney Memorial Society, you humble me, you honor me. Stool Dryer family, 100 years of us, I guess you could say. When you look back over the University of Notre Dame, 100 years of quarterbacks. It speaks volumes to the men and now the women that attend our university and our teams and our competition and our athletes and all of those that have been students here that have contributed so much to the society that we live in today. And it will require all of our strength to be able to get through some of the things that we are dealing with. And as we sit here today, if we can find prayers for those that have been hit by the hurricanes and those that have had cities destroyed around the world, because prayers can make a difference. And if we pray hard enough, we can make sure that they're safe. Again, I can't thank you enough for this incredible award. I'm humbled and I'm honored, and I thank you so much for sharing it with me this evening. Thank you, everybody.
So I don't want Joe to leave just yet because I know as we're running out of time, but one thing that they added this year was an opportunity for you folks that are here tonight to ask a question of Joe. And so we had them submitted, and we have a couple, and I won't go, we don't have time for all of them, but there were a couple that stood out, and I just thought they were really cool. So the first one, you can come over here and you can use this mic, and I'll stand off to the side.
Okay.
This one comes from Jeff Doro, if I said that last name right, from Stevensville, Michigan. He says, you won a lot of games and were very successful at every level, but can you tell us about significant losses you went through and what you learned from them? Maybe just one.
Significant, there is no such thing as a significant loss. It has no significance to it whatsoever other than make you really upset with your life. I guess you could say the most significant was losing Super Bowl 18 to, at that time, they were the Los Angeles Raiders. And I take a lot of it on my own shoulders. I can tell you a real quick story about that. Final score was, 38-10, something like that. I remember halftime, we were down 21-7 at the time. And actually, we're down 14-3 at that time. I'm on the sidelines, we're on the 12-yard line, 12 seconds to go. Joe Gibbs says to me, he says, I want to run rocket screen. I said, Coach, I don't feel good about putting the ball in the air backed up so far. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. He said, it worked against them last time. We beat the Raiders 33-31 at our place. He said, it worked against them last time. It should be okay now. And I'm thinking, you don't think they know that it worked last time? You don't think they're going to make an adjustment? But I didn't say it. I'm a loyal soldier. So I wound up going and I'm jogging out on the field. I'm going, boy, this just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel right. So I take the snap, drop back. A gentleman by the name of Jack Squire, and Jack just passed away a few years ago. Put him on the cover of Sports Illustrated, I did. And I drop back, I let the ball go. And have you ever seen Black Sunday with Bruce Dern, where they shoot the ball is in the air and somebody's up in a press box with a high-speed rifle or a big rifle, and they shoot the ball out of the air and the ball falls to the ground harmlessly. And I'm thinking, I'm waiting for the shot. And then it winds up in Jack's hands, and we wind up losing that game considerably. And I'll never forget going to Coach Gibbs after that. I met him he has a fundraiser called Youth for Tomorrow. 5 years later, I said, Coach, I got a bone to pick with you. I just, you know that call you made in Super Bowl 18, that rocket screen? One of the worst calls I've ever seen you make. He said, Joe, you know something? You know that pass you threw in Super Bowl 18? One of the worst I've ever seen in my life. So, but yeah, losing the big one is, fortunately, we won it the year before, but it changes your life. I mean, it really does. It's an incredible experience. And there's only been, I believe, 37 of us that have been fortunate enough to put that ring on our finger and call us part of world champions. So special.
All right. Now I have one more question, but I'm going to actually come down into the audience and allow this person to read it aloud. While I'm making my way down here, I'd like to remind you, if you look over to that side of the room, you can see a
Helmet.
helmet. Thank you. A helmet. If you'd like to bid on that.
You've been covering sports for a long time. I like that.
It's a long night, Joe.
That's
You
really
talked
good.
a lot tonight.
And it's going to be an early morning when I see you tomorrow again. So, yeah.
That's right. Well, he autographed that helmet, so if you'd like to bid on that, you can do that right now.
Got a few things on it.
Also, at the end of the night, when you're leaving, don't forget the Loyal Sons book is here, and Jim LaFave will sign that for you as well.
Alice, can I say something?
Yes.
Jim, where are you?
He's in the back.
Jim, the evening is incredible. The award is beyond comprehension. Your knowledge of the history of the University of Notre Dame and what you've been able to do and present to people in your book, and also just as you stood here tonight, was both enthralling and educational and downright fun. And I want to thank you for letting me be a part of this evening.
He puts a lot of work and time into this. Now I'm making my way over here to Tom Gatewood, College Football Hall of Famer, one of my all-time favorites that I've ever had on our show. He's
Mine too.
Wonderful. Yeah, you might like him a little bit. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to ask you to stand up. He submitted a question, just like all of you guys did, and I thought that was really cool. So I'm going to have you read it out loud. Is that okay? Oh, he wants me to read it, but you'll just stand and look good? Okay, no problem.
Good you look.
Yeah, well, thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
Sorry, Joe.
Hey, I'm just standing here, Tom. Go right ahead. Take over.
His question is, if you could go to the Notre Dame archive file and view your most satisfying and impactful personal highlight, what would it be?
It would be throwing a touchdown pass to Tom Gatewood. And that's why he's a quarterback.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everybody.